We're back. I'm going to apologize up front. I think I left out your slide that promotes you guys. I included it yesterday, but I don't think I included it in the one I sent you for today's. So I may have to verbalize that. Or you can do it.
I would rather it come from you.
Yeah,
It
I'd be
gives
glad to.
the support of the presenter. Let me take a look here. I think what we found yesterday was actually there's some tunnel vision whenever it comes to when it comes to selling and maybe copy, because what I heard yesterday, it just seemed like, okay, I'm hearing someone that sells e-commerce, uses e-commerce platform, but doesn't understand how to like translate, um, you know, ease the pain, know your customer, all of that into an e-commerce platform. And
Well, they're selling with no relationship. It's a transactional sale.
right.
And they're putting something on the website. I go to it. It's like Amazon. I don't know anybody at Amazon,
Yeah.
but I order from Amazon.
Yeah.
And that's not the relationship selling that I teach. So she
Mhm.
was absolutely right. I think it was Maria.
Uh-huh.
I, I wasn't understanding totally that it was product focused. However, my deal is with other social media people, if you get them interested, what do you say when you get there?
Yeah.
And with transactional e-commerce, you don't have to say anything. You're just giving them a place to click and put their credit card information. So yeah, her points are very legitimate.
Oh, yeah. I do think that there is a way to marry the two, though.
Well, I think that comes in the marketing side, not in once you get on the website, how do you get their attention? And she met, like I said, the product that she's selling may be a product focus as opposed to let me ease your pain.
Yeah.
I'll battle the marketing department on that because I've done it in the past where they're throwing out functionality, but the functionality doesn't necessarily interpret, translate into a benefit. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. But we'll have a little fun today. These people are going to talk about personality. So it's always good to talk about personalities. And if they've got their hand out, they'll be able to kind of look at themselves and see that.
Well, I was just
You know,
talking with someone that is going to be on the webinar today, and she's having terrible supply chain problems. And it's just like,
yeah, I've got two international manufacturers that I've worked with throughout the years. And
mm,
one of them said, Here's my problem. I got 61 orders and I can't fill any of them. And they're selling tractors. It's not like a small item.
oh, wow, yeah.
Large ticketed items. And this fire truck manufacturer that I worked with last week in San Antonio, they said the same thing. As good as they are, and they thought they got ahead of the curve. It's
Didn't have enough
delay,
room.
delay, delay.
Well, she switched. She was using an importer. She imports from Mexico, and she was using an importer in California. So it would go from Monterrey, Mexico to Houston to California to Dallas.
Yeah.
So she tried FedEx. FedEx had one box. They took one shipment, lost it, and they're now refusing to take any others. So she's like beside herself. What do I do?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a huge problem. And
so
it affects us all in some way.
yeah, it does. It does. That's why groceries are more expensive. That's why you can't get a new car. There are no new cars, new
But yeah,
vehicles.
there are no chips to go in the cars. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the car business has such a ripple effect throughout the nation, throughout
Yeah.
the community, from trade-ins to mechanics to gas. There's just a lot of implications on
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs to solve this pretty quickly, but it's not an easy fix, but it is fixable.
It's all trickle down from last year's shutdowns.
Yeah, it's going to impact a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Both of these companies that I talk about, fire trucks and the tractors, both of them had phenomenal years because people could stay around and forecast and plan and
Uh-huh.
determine, strategize what they needed. And they started ordering, but then this comes up and it backs up everything. Not easy.
No, it's not. Okay, we have 5 minutes. People should start popping in.
You did give me a good idea. Thank you yesterday about all the things being in place. So I'm going to try to hitchhike on that
Okay.
using your idea and coming up with mine to maybe clarify a few things. We'll see if I can pull that off. So did you find this position or did they find you?
Actually, um, let's see. Actually, when I was working for the Chamber of Commerce, um, I got an email from NCTC that pretty much said, "Oh, we have an opening here. Would you please disseminate this throughout your membership?" And you know what? It didn't go anywhere. It stayed in my email, and then I applied for it, and the chamber was negatively impacted by the pandemic. And
Right.
I was the one talking to the chamber president going, okay, you need to do something. And I am the most expensive cost that you have. So I was actually out of a job for 2 weeks before I started here. So I had a vacation and
Yeah,
then I started here. So
I
it
like your
was
I like your style.
it was all in the timing, all in the timing. But this is the first time I have had anything to do with an actual government job, like
Uh-huh.
government from NCTC, SBDC, part of the SBA, and all of the other acronyms. Um, it's been a fun adjustment. I have
Good.
enjoyed
And
it.
I'm sure it's a learning curve, as you said.
It is.
They, the government has more initials than IBM did.
I know. I know. I know. And there are so many rules around grant funded organizations.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a great experience. I have a lot of really wonderful coworkers. So
And that does make it pleasant, no doubt.
it does. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to give it until about 2 minutes after, and then going to go ahead and start.
Sure. Yep. And I'm ready when you are, and we'll share the screen and go from there.
Yep. When I started doing these, I started talking, giving like fun facts about me and like, I've already started listening to Christmas music, and that was back in November of last year. Then I ran out of fun things about me and started going with holidays, weird holidays.
Well, yesterday you had it was National what Day? You said something.
It was National Brownie Day.
Brownie. And
Brownie.
you talk about that the food, not the girls' organization.
Right. Well, I don't know. I went with the food.
Okay. Good.
No, I think the picture did show brownies, actual the brownie food.
Yeah.
Um, but there are some really weird holidays out there.
I have followed them over the years, and that's you're exactly right. On Popcorn Day, I would send some of my clients or prospects would send them a bag or a can of popcorn on National Popcorn Day.
Absolutely.
They have them all. Roger's back. Well,
Roger.
his palm tree is back. I don't know if Roger exists or if he's just a palm tree.
He's real. I've met him. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's real.
Okay, just checking. So Roger, what do you want to do today? I can change this. I can modify it a bit.
Oh, he might have slipped out and we'll be right back.
Well, so far I still don't have proof that he exists.
Mm,
Judith is with us.
Yes.
Judith, what do you do? Tell us about yourself. You're muted.
Can you hear me now, Brian?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Paola.
Hi.
I'm in the process to start my hat business with Paola. We've been working in the last couple months. We just have a meeting this morning, and we are so excited, right, Paola? We are going to establish our LLC next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what I do, I sell hats.
Well, you're a good model for them. That's good. And who do you sell hats to?
My business model is business to business. Right now, I have two clients. Those are boutiques, fashion boutiques. One is located in McKinney, downtown McKinney, Texas. And the other one, I could say, is located on Grapevine, and
Okay.
on the main street on Grapevine, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But she does, she travels, my a client from Grapevine, she travels to different um, shows in Texas, like fashion shows to sell
Right.
the hats, and vintage shows and boho shows. Yeah.
Well, you're busy then.
Well, it's a part-time job because I just started working as a leasing consultant full-time. So the hats business is a family business. From a 50-year tradition of people selling hats. I'm from Mexico. My dad has been selling hats for more than 50 years. My brother started his new line of hats. He's the designer and he does by hand all the hats. He's located in Monterrey, Mexico. And
Yeah.
I'm here in Texas trying to sell them to the Texans.
Well, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paula McCain. I'm a recovery business advisor for the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. Today is National Llama Day and National Pastry Day. So after this, I'm going to the bakery. The SBDC is a leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We're grant funded, and because of that, we're able to provide webinars and our services to you at no cost. Today's webinar is called Selling in Style with Brian Flanagan of Flanagan Training Group. If you would, please put your questions in the chat room and Brian will get to them during his presentation. And Brian, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I thank everybody for being with us. This would be kind of hopefully a little bit different situation because we're going to talk about personalities. Yesterday, we talked about a process of selling your value so you don't have to defend your price as often. And this is a relationship concept, which means you're going in and forming a bond or relationship with someone and selling them over a period of time. It's not really a one and done, but it's more relationship versus a transactional selling environment. I want to pick up on what Paula said yesterday. She said something toward the end of the program, and I've taken what she said and kind of molded it into this. So Paula, teasingly, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's not sanitary. But let me give you the four filters that a sale has to go through for it to be successful. And again, I'm from Louisiana, so I really keep it simple. I have the four P's, the letter P. For a sale to be successful, you've got to have the right product being sold to the right prospect, using the right process, delivered by the right person. So those are the four P's: the product, the prospect, the process, and then the person, you. If it fails to make it through one of those filters, a sale will not take place. It's oftentimes important to find out when I lost a sale, why did I lose that sale? Where did my process break down? Was the product not a fit? Was he not a qualified prospect? I thought that she was a decision maker. She ended up not being the decision maker. The process I'm using, did it fit the buyer's buying process? And did I bring my A game? Did I bring my best game as a salesperson? And if you look at it like that, you've got to build your product knowledge. You've got to build your prospecting and qualifying skills. You certainly got to have a process that allows you to move through with the buyer through the process. And then they've got to trust you. They've got to put their confidence and their certainty in you. So Paula, thank you for that. It gave me a reminder on maybe looking back at some of the sales I'm having trouble with. Maybe it hasn't gone through one of those P's. I need to go back and regroup a little bit. So Paula, that was the aha moment. I'm sorry, hold on a second. Aha. That was the aha moment for me. You didn't think I had a prop. Very expensive prop. Therefore, thank you. So if you have any questions, comments, snide remarks, my name, my number, my email address will all be included at the end of this. Once again, we're being brought today by the North Central Texas Center. Guys, use your resources. There's resources available to you for a business person like myself, and I've got affiliates and I've got associates, but I'm a one-man band. So I'm one of those guys that's a sole entrepreneur. I work with a lot of companies that need resources and they don't know where to look. Well, talk to Paula, talk to Judy, sometimes talk to Roger. I'm teasing Roger, but they're resources for you because I love selling. I love the world of sales. I respect it. I honor it. Here's the problem. You're not successful in a vacuum. And if you think you are, then you're not using your resources. So open up your mind, get the blinders off, and use the resources that are dedicated to moving you forward in your business. All right, I'm preaching a little bit, but I sincerely, I had a lot of help to get successful in my profession. And my background, again, is IBM for 14 years. I joined the Zig Ziglar Corporation for 29 years. In the last few years, I've been out in my own business. But I've always had people along the way that were encouragers, that were resources for me. Some I paid for, some I couldn't pay for. Hello, this is why you have the Small Business Center here to help you do that. So take advantage of that. Okay, sports fans, let's take a look at a couple of things. My objectives today. We want to build better business relationships. The problem is that we build relationships, but are they business relationships? Now, the reason I say that, I've got buddies of mine from years and years, and they know what I do. And we have lunch together, and we take our families out together. But they don't buy from me because I haven't taken that social relationship, that friend relationship, and moved it into a business relationship. So it's good that you have friends, and we all need more friends. Yet at the same time, in this environment, what we're talking about here is that we want to build business relationships. To do that, we have to understand our selling style, our personal communication style, our behavioral style, our selling style. Because one of the biggest mistakes I made, and I made a lot of them, one of the biggest mistakes I made early in my sales career, I was selling to all of you like I wanted to be sold unto. And I was missing 75% of my opportunities. So we need to identify your style. The third bullet there, so we can communicate to different people differently. Now, most of us are in the Dallas area. I know we had some that work in California and different places yesterday and on previous calls. But here in Dallas, we have a man who owns the Dallas Cowboys named Jerry Jones. Now, when I meet Jerry Jones in a business environment, I'm not going to do small talk. I'm not going to talk about my slow pitch softball team. Now, Jerry has a family. He's very proud of his family. He's got a grandson that won a state championship here in Dallas in football. He was a great quarterback, went on to college. Jerry's proud of his family. But in a business setting, he's different from me. I want to talk about small talk. I want to talk about little nuances. Well, he doesn't. He's more of a business person. So I've got to adjust to Mr. Jones. He does not adjust to me. Yet I also talk to people who are servers. They have nursing homes. They have retirement villages. And they are helpful. They are servants. They don't rush to judgment. They plod along and make sure everybody is secure. Well, you adjust to those people. And I say it in a very positive way. That means throwing different pitches to different batters. And the last thing we want to do, not only in the external customers, but our internal customers. There's two factors on a business team or any team. You need to have a degree of harmony, cooperation, and you have to have some results, which is productivity. What I find is that when we have organizations, and I work with a lot of organizations, when we have organizations that have all productivity, they don't care about their home, they just want to make bottom line numbers, get it. They have people writing resumes and sending them on the system that they work on. They send resumes out while they're at work because that's not a happy place. We have some organizations that work strictly on harmony. They want everybody to be happy, but productivity slips. And now they got a country club. So somewhere in there, you need to understand that you need a degree of harmony and cooperation. You need a degree of productivity and results. And those all come together. So one of the questions I like to ask myself and I ask my clients, at the end of the day, how do you know you've been successful? At the end of the day, how do you know you've been successful? When I work with sales teams, oftentimes a salesperson will say, well, I've been successful when I look back at the end of the day and I've sold something. I don't sell something every day. I mean, I build, I try to, I prospect, I try to move the sale forward, but I don't close that often because of my selling cycle and what I'm selling. There's got to be a better way to gauge yourself. And the reason I say that, at the end of the day, you need to go home with two things. Number one, professional gratification. I moved the sale forward. I made a sale. That's all professional gratification. I helped somebody. I went above and beyond. I helped one of my teammates. That's all strong, professional. But on the other side, when you go home in the afternoon, you need personal gratification. That you felt you contributed, that you belong to something bigger than yourself. That in your mind, selling is serving, and through your sales efforts, you help somebody build a better business, go home and see their kids faster, better, quicker, because you've helped their productivity. You solved a problem so they can be better moms and dads. You made it so that they can move to a different level, perhaps of income status and standard of living status. Those are the things that as salespeople we do. So as we go through this, I think these styles will allow you to understand yourself and in turn understand others more effectively. Some of you printed off or received the handout that we sent. And on page 4 of that handout, we have a profile that you can take a look at, and you can actually score yourself. If you haven't done it, you may want to wait till after the seminar to do so this morning. But this is a good snapshot. When we get to the meat of it today, if you have questions about this, please ask, because everything kind of is based on your style. But not only knowing your style, but understanding the other 3 styles. Behavioral scientists have come up, and this is on page 5 of your handout. Behavioral scientists have come up with 4. Now, how did this happen? I apologize here, folks. This should be, there you go. Let's do that way. There are 4 types of behavioral styles. There are people who are outgoing. There are people who are reserved. Now, the people who are outgoing, they talk before they think. The people who are more reserved think before they talk. And on the horizontal, we have people on the left side there who are more task-oriented, and people on the right side are more people-oriented. So if you've taken your profile on page 4, under the first column, that's write the style, write the capital letter D. Under the second, at the bottom of the second column, write the capital letter I for influencing. Under the third column, S for steadiness. And under the fourth column, C for competent. So let's take a look at what you are. Well, let me do this first. Let's play this little game here. When you get off the call at 1 o'clock Dallas time, when you get off the call, we'll be off before then, Paul. But let's say at 1 o'clock after lunch, you have 4 people that want to speak to you about buying your product or service. I'm going to label these people. If you want to put a little crossbar there, on the upper left hand, David. Now, David, and if you're in the handout on page 5, you can put David in the upper left hand corner. David is direct, competitive, and confident. He wants to get the job done. So that's one prospect that wants you to call them back or come visit them. 2, in the upper right hand corner, we have Irene. Now, Irene is outgoing and friendly and people oriented. So she's friendly, emotional, outgoing, life of the party. She's more people conscious. The third person that wants you to talk to them is Sally. She's in the lower right. And Sally is sincere, good listener. She's cooperation oriented. The fourth person I'd like you to call them today is Charles. Now, Charles is more the engineer. He's analytical, by the book, factual, actual, detailed. Now, if you would unmute yourself and tell me which one of these people would you like to call on? So which one of those people in the upper left-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner, the lower right, the lower left, David, Irene, Sally, or Charles? Which one of those would you like to interact with first? I'm sorry, out loud. Okay. Joe, do you have a choice? Do you have one of those styles you would like to work with?
Dominant.
You want to work with the dominant. So this person is going to take action. They're the decision makers. So let's talk about these styles here. The Charles, the lower left. These are the people who proofread Xerox copies. They are detailed oriented. They wanted specs and tolerances. This is Sherlock Holmes. This is Bill Gates. And then we have the people, the Sallys in the lower right, who are people oriented, but a little bit low key, a little bit more reserved. Now, this was my mother-in-law. My other mother, I loved my other mother. She was unbelievable, but she was a servant. She served her 3 children. She served her grandkids. She served me, the son-in-law who she loved more than anybody. So she was a giver, but she didn't take direct action. For her to make a decision, she had to make sure that she thought it through and that she understood how it impacted the rest of the family members. She was an administrative assistant for years in East Baton Rouge at the school board there. When she retired and moved to Dallas to be closer to her son-in-law, me, she was a candy striper. She volunteered at the Plano hospitals. So she was a giver, big, big servant. And then we have the loud people, the influencing people. These people talk on elevators when they're the only ones on the elevator. Now here you're people like Robin Williams, Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey. They're talkers, they're expressives. The problem is you get them excited on the first call, or maybe Judith, if you have them, you're out talking to them in a boutique, and they get excited about your product line of hats. The next time you contact them, all the helium is gone out of their balloon, and you got to pump them back up because they're impulsive by nature. And then we have the dominant, the high dominant. We call these high Ds. These are the people who are task oriented, get the job done. I want to act now. I'm aggressive. I'm competitive. Let's get after it. This was my father-in-law. Now, my father-in-law was from Detroit, Michigan. Therefore, he had no gray in his life. Everything was black, white, nothing in between. He was the kind of guy that would say, hey, stop telling me about your labor pains. Show me a baby. So cut to the chase, get the job done. They want to watch the show 60 minutes in half an hour. Jerry Jones, in other words. Well, guess what? You don't have a choice of who you sell to. You don't have a choice of who comes in your retail store. You don't have a choice who enters into your website and says, hey, let's have a conversation. So it's imperative that you and I understand ourselves so that we can adjust to other people. This also has a lot to do with motivation. I'm a big believer that motivation is an inside job. I believe that to create motivation is hard to do, but to create an environment where people can motivate themselves, now that's much easier to do and more effective. And I say this because I've worked with a lot of companies and also different offices within the IBM career. But one thing that Zig Ziglar did better than anybody I've ever met, and I'm in his office today, I'm still using his training room, but Mr. Ziglar did better than anybody else, is he created an environment that his employees wanted to come to work. And within that environment, he let us motivate ourselves. Now, I believe that motivation is an inside job, and I'll prove this to you. Many years ago, early in my marriage, we didn't have a lot of money. So I was struggling to get my contacts, and I needed to sell Cindy on letting me buy my first pair of contact lens. Now, back in those days, I got some cheap pair. They were about $500. So we went to a party about 3 days after I got my contacts. We were at a party. Cindy was in the other part of the room. I looked one way. One of my contacts fell to the carpet. For 10 minutes, I was on my hands and knees trying to find my contact lens. Cindy comes up and said, Flanagan, what are you doing? I dropped a contact. I think I lost it. Immediately, she drops to her hands and knees. Within 2 minutes, she finds my contact lens. I take it out of my hand. I'm going to the side of the room with her. I'm putting my contact in. I said, Cindy, hold on, wait. I'm kind of embarrassed. I was down there 5 times longer than you were, yet you found my contact. Why? What's the reason? She said, the reason is simple. You were looking for a contact lens. I was looking for $500. Now understand, they had the same behavior. I was on my hands and knees. She was on her hands and knees with different motivators, because I wanted to put the contact in, jump back, and be the life of the party. Cindy, on the other hand, the more practical of the two, she was on her hands and knees saying, I bet he didn't insure these things. I'm going to find this sucker. And she was doing it from a different perspective than I was. Well, your clients are the same way. You're selling one product to two different people, and they may have two different motivators, and they also may have two reasons to buy. How are we doing so far? Comments, questions, answers. Okay, your silence is your consent.
Brian, and how do you identify what's the motivation of your client?
Judith, you're ahead of me. I have no idea. We're going to cover that.
Okay. Yeah,
In
because
your handout, we have it in your handout. We also have it right here on this screen. So Judith, let me ask the whole group, not just you, let's determine my style. Rather than wait, let's determine my style.
okay.
This is based on behavior. It's not based on what your business card says. It's not based on what you drive. It's based on your behavior. So let's take a look at me right in the square, right in the middle of the intersection there. Let's ask the question, based on Brian's behavior this morning, is my behavior more outgoing or is it more reserved? What do you think?
Outgoing.
I'm outgoing. Thank you. You got that right. Mel Chase, thank you. Okay. Did you see that, Paul, about giving Mel the link to the handout?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I
thank
have
you.
it. Yes, I have.
So guys, here's what Judith said. I'm more outgoing. So we're going to go up the page. Am I more of a dominant person? Am I more task oriented or am I more people oriented? And most people would say, Brian, you're in the upper right-hand side, but I see the upper left with you. Well, that's my combination. My first style is influencing. My second style is dominant. But folks, my steadiness is low and my competency is almost non-existent. I don't have an analytical bone in my body. When my bank book doesn't balance, I change banks. So I don't like the detail. I want the people side of things. So that's one way, Judith, of how to do it. And then in our handout, we have a more detailed way to do it. Does that help a little bit, Judith?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it here.
Good. All right. So folks, now that you know my style, what is your style? Once again, the more accurate way is to take page 4, complete page 4 by following the instructions. But because some of you have done it, some of you haven't, let's move to the slide here. In the business environment, now this is a situational assessment. In other words, the situation is business, not social, not recreational, not athletically. In a business environment, are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? If you're more reserved, you move down the page. Then we ask, are you more people oriented or are you more task oriented? And that helps you to determine your style. So let me give you an example. I work with a PhD named Bob, and Dr. Bob he's a brilliant guy. He's got a PhD in curriculum design. I have no idea what that means. So let me give you Bob's behavior to determine if you can come up with Bob's style on this particular slide. When Bob has meetings with us, he'll come into the conference room for a 2:00 meeting. He gets there at 1:45. He takes a seat at the center of the conference table, not at the heads, not at the power positions, but the center. When people come into the conference room for the meeting, he will acknowledge them. He doesn't get up and glad hand them, but he acknowledges them. So right now, is he more outgoing or is he more reserved? Most of you say he would be more reserved. So we're going to go down the page. Let me give you some other behavior. When we start talking about who's going to develop this program, who's going to write the content, the lesson plans, Who's going to do the graphics? Who's going to do the PowerPoint to support the instructions? Bob is always asking, well, has this person done it before? What's their pedigree? Where are they qualified? Are they certified to do this? So if you go down the page, he's asking questions, not necessarily person questions, but task questions. So he's more assessing, not accepting. So he would be lower left. He's the competent person. Now, at lunch, when we go to lunch with Dr. Bob, he is hilarious because he has also taken a course in mediation, and he does a lot of family law. Lawyers contract with him to mediate during divorce settlements. And he has all kind of stories, and he can regale you for hours on hours. But in the work environment, Bob is very much the lower left competent. Now, here's the problem. Bob and I have conflict because I'm in the upper right. I'm outgoing in people. Bob's in the lower left. He's tasked and reserved. We don't have anything in common. The same is true with the dominant, outgoing and task, and the opposite, the diagonal, the steadiness, who is people in reserve. So the dominant looks at the steadiness person and says, look, let's move, giddy up. And the S is saying, whoa, slow down. And there's a conflict, perhaps. The influencer, me, talks to Bob, the competent person. I'm saying, Bob, I've just told you my best 3 jokes. You're not laughing at my jokes. And he looks back and says, well, based on the information I have at my disposal, I can prove that ain't funny. So I'm coming from an emotional area, and Bob's coming from an evidence area. So I've got to adjust to Bob. I don't expect Bob to adjust to me. Fair enough? Okay, so Judith, we're going to go through a couple of these. We're going to talk about everybody's style, and that's on page 5. We're then going to talk about your strengths, weaknesses, and needs, your selling tendencies. We'll then talk about how to identify somebody. And the last part of this handout, of this section of the handout, how do we sell more effectively, communicate more efficiently, and meet needs the way they want their needs to be met. Anytime in the presentation, unmute yourself, get our attention, use the chat room, and we'll answer the questions. Let's get started. So we're going to talk about, let's see where we go here. We're going to talk about, where do we go? On page 4, you need to complete this at some point in time. If you just follow the instructions, it'll work out. Let's first talk about on page 5, let's talk about the dominance. The dominance is in the upper left-hand corner. They're direct, competitive, and confident. They get the job done. And when you're selling to the dominance, guess what? They throw out the most objections. They want the best deal. So these people are demanding, they're drivers, and they are doers. To me, this is Donald Trump, and this is Hillary Clinton. This is Jerry Jones, Vince Lombardi, any New York City cab driver, get the job done. And they take direct action. If you're the dominant, you have a tendency to be results focused. And you have a high activity level because that's how you know that activity drives results. The dominant. Then we move to the influencing person. The influencing people. They're friendly, outgoing, they're emotional, they wear their emotions on their sleeves, and they're people-oriented, they're talkative. Now, these are the people that elongate sales calls. They over-explain things. They talk about small talk, community activities, the Dallas Cowboy football teams, the local community football team. And they oftentimes don't get to the task or the business at hand as quickly as some of you would like them to do so. They're interactive, they're impulsive, and as it says there at the bottom, they're talkative. Now, I coached all my sports teams for my kids when they were little. The first baseball team I had for my son, I had for 5 years, through T-ball to coach's pitch. I knew those kids and I knew their parents very well. One of the little boys that played for me was named Matthew. Now, Matthew's daddy is a high influencing person. Gary is an insurance agent, North Dallas, does real well, but he's a high, energetic, talkative guy. Matthew's mother has a PhD from Dallas Theological Seminary. She's more the analytical. When he was younger, he went up to his mother and said, "Mom, I've got a question." She said, "Son, why don't you ask your dad?" And he said, "Mom, I don't want to know that much about it." So the influencing people can over-explain things. And in a selling situation, the influencing person can get really passionate, but sometimes they can oversell that passion. One of the things I learned, once again, put your talent ahead of your passion. Have enough ability and skill to know how to communicate your passion for your product and service. The high I. My favorite style, the high S, the steadiness. They're sincere, loyal, they're good listeners, they're cooperation, harmony oriented. These people are stable, supportive, secure, they're safety oriented. They want people to be safe, inclusive. They want them to be okay. Now, the problem is sometimes they move slower than the dominance or the influencing. To me, these are people like first grade teachers, kindergarten teachers, nurses, healthcare professionals. They have a heart to serve. Mother Teresa, Laura Bush, former First Lady. And my favorite from the Old West, Tonto. Tonto was always there for the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger was the dominant. He made the decisions, but Tonto bailed him out. Every time that the Lone Ranger would get caught, they had tied him to a chair, about to rip off his mask. Who rescued him? Tonto. He was always there for the Lone Ranger because he was a support. These are the people within your organization that don't step forward and get the headlines and the accolades, but they work behind the scenes to get the job done. All right, now listen up to this. This is important for a lot of us. Oftentimes we find salespeople who are non-traditionally minded salespeople. They are accidental salespeople. The steadiness oftentimes finds him or herself as a sales professional. They think that they've got to be outgoing and extroverted. They don't. Think about this. As an influencing person with a dominant backup, I'll walk into a room full of people and say, "Here I am, how am I doing? Good to see me." I'm a here I am guy. But the steadiness person is a there you are person. If you're selling to me, and let's just say you're selling me an item that costs $5,000. And I'm about to spend $5,000 of my hard-earned dollars with you. I do not want a here I am salesperson. I want a there you are salesperson. I want somebody that'll listen to my needs, understand my needs, and not try to oversell me, not try to push me. The steadiness make great salespeople. They need to steal some of the traits of the D and the I, and the D and the I need to steal some of the traits of the S. Now, here's why I like the steadiness. This was my mama. My mother and dad started an insurance agency in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They knocked out our back porch, my playroom, and they built a State Farm insurance agency. And dad worked full-time at Exxon, Esso at the time, but it worked full-time at the refinery in Baton Rouge. And mother ran the business. My brother got out of the Marine Corps. He joined the Marines because our dad was too strict. My dad was a high D, but my mother was a high S, and they worked well together. But I asked my mother, my dad died in 68. My mother stayed with my brother until she was 90. She retired when she was 90. And the reason she retired, my brother only gave her 2 weeks of vacation. So I said, Mom, how does it feel to sell more insurance policies than anybody in the city of Baton Rouge? And she said, I've never sold anybody. She never sold a person. She loved them into buying. She was a support person. She died 3 weeks shy of 100 at 99, and she was still going strong. She just didn't want to work anymore because of those 2 weeks of vacation. But the steadiness can make good salespeople, but they have to understand that they're in the helping business. And that's what the steadiness really like to do. Now we get to the competency. I wish I were more competent. I wish I were more cautious, analytical, detailed by the book, but I'm not. And that gets me in trouble. So if you're selling to me and you are a competent person and I'm an influencing person, one of the things you can bring to me as a need, as a value, that you take care of the headaches of filling out all these forms and making sure everything is detailed. I'll love you for that. I'll pay money for that. These are the people who are controlled, not controlling, controlled, calculated, and technical. These are architects, engineers, accountants. These are people who are dedicated to getting the things done at the same time that they need to be done, in the same accuracy that they are being required to do. The high C, the high competency CPA, went to church without his wife. He came home and she said, honey, I missed the service today. What did the pastor talk about? Sin. Well, what did he say about it? He's against it. So if you're going to make conversation with the high competency people, write this down. Ask open-ended questions, because open-ended questions will give you open information. Closed-ended questions will just give you a fact. Yes, no, no, yes. With these people, you need to draw out the information. Therefore, your skills have got to be better when you're selling to a competent than when you're selling to me, because you ask me anything and I'll give you a short story in response. So those are the styles. You're a combination of all of them. I'm a combination of all of them. On page 4, when you take this profile, you'll see that you've got numbers in each of the columns. Yet the column that has the largest number in it, that's where you spend most of your time. Chat it up, guys, gals. Any comments, questions, accusations? I see Lori Logan has joined us. I see no questions. Mel, we okay, Mel? We're hitting on all cylinders here. All right, I'll take your silence as your consent. All right, guys, on the next page of the handout, what are your strengths, weaknesses, and needs? This describes it on page 6 of the handout. It talks about each style has a strength, a weakness, and a need. These are your strengths, weaknesses, and needs, but they're also the strengths, weaknesses, and needs of the client. So let's say you're selling to me. Once again, I'm a high energy guy. I'm a high expressive, obnoxiously so. My mother told one of the teachers, the problem with Brian is that I'm trying to entertain the class. And that's why she had behavioral problems with me. That was before Ritalin. So let's say you're selling to me. If you're selling to me, understand that I'm going to be a relationship builder. That's what it says, a communicating participant. My weakness is that I'm not good with follow through or time control. If you have a meeting with me at 2:00, don't take it personally that I didn't get out of my office to come get you until 2:10, or I didn't sign on to the virtual call until 5 after it started. Again, I overbook. My personality is very optimistic. I'm the kind of guy that would go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with him. Did I think I can do all of these things? And then the deadlines hit and I get behind. What do I need? I need enthusiasm. I need to express myself. And if you shut me down socially, I'm not going to build trust with you as quickly as if you would let me talk a little bit more. If I get to talking and you see it's really impacting the time, you may have to say time out. Brian, I really enjoyed that. Maybe we can get together for lunch one day and continue. But what I really would like to talk about today, at least you've acknowledged my style. At least you said, look, I'm excited about that. I'd like to hear more about it. But due to the fact that we've got to finish at 2:30, I'd like to ask you a couple other questions. And then you draw me back into the sales conversation as opposed to the social conversation. So that is a study page for page 6. It tells you about yourself, but it also tells you about others. Now, what's not on that page is fears. So this is an addendum to page 6. This is not on page 6. When you're selling to people, understand there's oftentimes some adversarial moments. There may be some conflict. There may be some friction. Understand that some people have fears about certain things when they're buying. For example, the dominance, the high dominance, direct, competitive, and confident. They fear being taken advantage of. So what does that mean? Judith, I'm going to pick on you because you're selling, let's say you're selling hats to a boutique in McKinney. And you sell the same type of order to the boutique in McKinney. Then you go call on the high dominant in Grapevine. He's a high dominant and he finds out that somebody got a better deal than he did. Now he gets upset with you. Because he feels somebody got a better deal he was taken advantage of. Be careful with that. The influencing. I fear loss of social acceptance. I fear that if I go to a meeting, I'm not going to have fun. If I'm interacting with a salesperson and he doesn't have a little bit of socializing, then I feel that nobody likes me. Now, I'm exaggerating that, but that's a part of it. Well, okay, I'm not exaggerating that. The steadiness. Because they want cooperation, they fear loss of security. Because they want safety, they fear changes too quickly. What does that mean if you're selling to one? If I'm selling to the steadiness, one of the things I've learned, asked to do, I've asked people this when they're human resource people who are steadiness. And a lot of human resource people are steadiness because they're advocates for all their employees, which is good. One of the things I ask, if we were to install this training in this department, how can we do so to cause the least disruptions? Steadiness don't like disruptions. They don't like conflict. How can we reassure you? How can we make sure that we take away any risk? Those are questions you can ask to the high steadiness person. The high competency person, they fear criticism of their work because they're so good at it. They spend time doing it. They're dedicated to doing it timely and accurately. And if you don't have your act together and you approach the C, then they take it personally. For example, if I'm managing a high competent person, Ralph, I'm worried about you. Oh, really? Why? Because you've been late 3 days this month. Oh, really? What day? And they've got it. Oh, no. December 1st? I was up at 6:30, had breakfast at 7. I was here. Be aware that when you go in and talk facts to a fact finder, to a high competency person, you need to have your facts in order. You need to be organized. Okay, that's the overview, folks. On page 7 of the handout, now this is not on my slides, but in page 7 of your handout, these are your selling tendencies. They have the 4 quadrants, and they talk about your selling tendencies. So if you're a high dominant person, your selling tendency is to close often, sell results, have high activity level, but you may lack service. You're saying, wait a minute, Flanagan, I'm a high dominant salesperson. If I lack service, I'd never have any repeat customers. Well, what happens is this. Your natural tendency is to go out every day and kill something new. not stop, clean, and dress what you've already killed. It doesn't say you don't service. This page says there's a tendency, it's a tendency to lack service focus. The high I's tendency. We sell emotion, we sell relationships, we're enthusiastic, we build a camaraderie, but we lack follow-up or follow-through. And Paula experienced that today when I said, I sent you the PowerPoint, I apologize, I left out a slide. I should have followed up and proofread one more time, Paula, I apologize. But understand that's a tendency. And Paula, I don't do that every time. I just did that yesterday and today. But the point is, it's a tendency I need to be aware of. The high S's, they sell support, service, they sell deeper relationships. They're very empathetic, but sometimes they lack a sense of urgency in closing. Oftentimes, a high steadiness person would rather the customer agree to buy rather than having to ask the obligating question to buy. They don't always do that. It's a tendency. High C's, the high competency people, they sell logic, they sell systems, they're good with follow-up, they're well prepared. And then on page 7, it says they lack emotional appeal, which means a high competency person usually doesn't make emotional decisions. Therefore, it's harder for them to use emotion. And what I mean by emotion is just wording like, how do you feel in this? If you could solve this problem, how would that make you feel? Oftentimes, the competency is asking, what are your thoughts? If you could solve this, what are your thoughts? Not that they can't use emotion, that's a tendency. All right, we're covering a lot of ground, sports fans. Shoot, I'm making this so easy, even Brett can understand it. Thank you, Brett. Comments, questions, chats.
I have a comment.
Go for it.
First off, I think I used to work with Dr. Bob.
I do too.
But, what I see here is the perfect organization. It absolutely is. You have a dominant, but to offset some of those weaknesses or fears or something like that, they hire the people around them that can fulfill.
Paula, once again, thank you for that. What's the perfect 4-person team? Right there on the screen. The perfect 4-person team is 1 D, 1 I, 1 S, and 1 C. Why? The D is going to generate new ideas. The I is going to get excited, grab something, one of those ideas, and with great enthusiasm, sell it to the rest of the organization. The S is going to finally get the idea and actually do it. And the C person is going to step back and verify for accuracy and timeliness. Perfect 4-person team. Let's say, however, that you put 4 dominants in a room by themselves. What are you going to get? An autopsy. Somebody is going to die. They're going to duke it out because they want the best deals. You put 4 I's in a room together, 4 me in a room together. What do you get? Party. 6 jokes, none of which are original. You put 4 my mother in a room together, 4 S's. The first thing they do is get into a group hug. Then they grab hands and sing Kumbaya. Then they start the employee assistance program. You put 4 C's together, you get an engineering firm. All right. They all like to play the board game Monopoly. Lie, cheat, or steal. Who wants to win the most at Monopoly? The dominant. Who wants a game at his house so he can brag about all his new stuff that he just purchased? The high I. Who brings the chips, the dips, and the sodas? The steadiness. And who do they make banker? The competency person. Now, the competency person is there for one other reason, to keep the dominants from cheating at Monopoly. They all go to the pistol practice range. Let's work this out from the C going counterclockwise. On the pistol practice range, the competent person gets out there, earmuffs, eyewear, gets a gun and goes ready, aim, 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 aim. And when they pull the trigger, they'll hit the target. But you sold to people where they overanalyze your proposal. They overanalyzing your quote. It's ready, aim, aim, aim. The steadiness person, my mother, the steadiness person goes to the pistol practice range, perfect form, eyewear, earmuffs, grabs a gun and goes ready. Oh, I'm sorry, were you here first? No, is this too loud? I like your bullet. No, I got time, go ahead. And they're very accommodating. The unorganized, high influencing person, we go to the pistol practice range, but we never fire a shot because we've lost our weapon. But you know which one the influencing person is because his jogging suit matches. See, the influencing people aren't good looking, but they're looking good. Now, the dominant goes to the pistol practice range. They don't use earmuffs. They like loud noise. Their guns are generally bigger, and this is how they do it. Ready, fire, 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 aim. And they just want action, and they'll pick up the dead bodies they leave behind. So that's a perfect four-person team, but there's also some problems when you have more of one team, of one style on the team than the other, because it can dominate it. Not the dominant, but they can dominate all the social if you're upper right. Or we need to slow down, lower right. Be aware that everybody's a combination. So as we move to page 8, let me get this page 8 out the way here. As we move to page 8, this, Judith, goes back to what we talked about earlier. This is an elongated version of how to determine somebody's style. And I've got arrows drawn here, but it's just like the short form. I've got the short form on the slide and the elongated form on the paper. Here's why I include the elongated format. I'm at the extreme. You can tell my style because if on this chart, the highest you can get on page 4, the highest number you can get per column is 40, the lowest is 11. I'm sorry, it's 10. I'm an 11 on the competency side. So the least you can get in any style is 10, I'm an 11. However, my influencing is 37. For me to get along with the analytical, I've got to go 26 points to get to her style. I've got to adjust. I've got to be conscious and deliberate in my adjustments. It doesn't come easily for me. I'm a 37 on the influencing. I'm a 34 on the dominant. It's easier for me to make that 3-point translation or transition than it is to go that 26 points. So the reason I give you both of these on this slide and also one on the page is that for the people to the extremes like I am, you can use this slide. But some people, when they take the course, they take the profile, their high is a 28 and their low is a 22. They only have to go 6 points to make adjustment. Also, if they're 28 high and 22 low, whatever the style combination is, it's easier for them to adjust. They don't have to go 26 points. On page 8, if you go to the center of the diagram, it says observed behavior. That's where we are right here when we talk about the crossroads there, the intersection. It's asking, are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? However, on the page 8, it says if you go up, you're asking 3 questions. Is this person more of a director of others, a relator to others, or do you see both behaviors? If you see both behaviors, then you go to the top, and that's the tie-breaking question. The tie-breaking question. Is this person more concerned with getting the results he wants or persuading and impressing others to get their results? And if you go down the page, it's the same thing. They're asking 3 questions. More reserved? Are they accepting, assessing, or both? If you say they're assessing like Dr. Bob, high C. You don't have to ask any more questions. If you see both behaviors, you go down to the bottom question. That's the tiebreaker at the bottom. Is this person more concerned with the importance or quality, or is this person more concerned with getting the task done in a cooperative manner? The next page of the handout on page 9 is another way to determine somebody's style verbally. If you're on the phone with them, as you're talking to them, they may say things or ask questions that help you determine their style. For example, on the high dominant, when can I get it? I want a discount, I'm not buying. Bottom line, cut to the chase. Prove it to me. They're challenging. The high I, they'll ask, can I win a prize? Do I get a trip? Who else is doing this? Will my people like me for this? I work with a company that sells to restaurants, and oftentimes that restaurant owner or manager wants the staff to like him because with this shortage of all that's going on, the high influencing people are taking all of this compressed workforce and doing double shifts, and they're mad at it. And the high influencing person needs some relief. You have anything that would help me do a better job of shift work, of recognizing my people, of having them appreciate me? The high S asks questions like, why did you change? Who else is using this? They want to be a part of a group. They don't want to be leading edge. And the high C is, can you put it in writing? How long's the warranty? What system if something breaks? What's my recourse? So those are all ways to determine somebody's style. Woo! How we doing so far, guys? Check in with me. All right, Judith is raised. Keep it under your hat, Judith. All right, so we're doing okay. We're doing okay with most of them. Lori, calm down. Okay, so guys, this is where the rubber meets the road. If you go to page 10, how do you communicate to different people differently? All right, when you're selling on page 10, and all of these are on page 10, when you're selling to the dominants. Now, once again, fast decisions, they throw out objections. You want to be direct, concise, to the point. Tell them what and when, but do not over-explain the how-to. They don't need to know how you produce it, get it to market, whatever. But you want to get to the bottom line. On page 11, if you're taking notes, so on page 10, if you're taking notes, what are the suggested words? When I'm talking to the dominant, what words can I use that would get his or her attention? Words like results, objectives, you'll be more competitive, it'll impact your bottom line, get or done, let's do it now. Why would we hesitate? Let's take action. Those are all dominant words. Now that we're dealing with the influencing person, we do more people words. We spare the details, we socialize. Please follow up with me. And then, of course, we show excitement. And one of the words you can use is excitement, enthusiastic. You'll like this. You'll be excited about this. Your people will appreciate you. When you go to the country club, you'll be cool. I mean, those are ego words, and if it fits, unfortunately, it works. Be aware that the influencing person may need to have you follow up with it. And you do that in a friendly manner. Mr. Prospect, if I don't hear from you by Thursday, may I call you on Friday morning? Would you extend me the courtesy of contacting you next week? Because you need to tie that down with a guy like me. Selling to the steadiness. Slow down the process. Earn their trust, answer all their questions, go slow and easy. Reassure them. That's a great word. Reassure them. No risk, low risk. Ask questions. How can I deliver this so you'll feel the most comfortable? What do I need to present to you so that in your mind you'd be satisfied that this works? Who do you need to see that is using the equipment, the product, the system, who that's a customer now? Who would you like to talk to that would put your mind at ease? You're slowing down the process because they don't want you to go quick, quick, quick. We're talking to the competency person. Now, this is hard for me because, again, I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. So I've got to be dedicated to having proof and testimonials, evidence. I've got to be prepared and structured. I've got to have an agenda. One of the things I teach in my book, So You're New to Sales, is to frame the call. Paula, thanks for meeting with me. As I said over the phone, what I'd like to do in the 30 minutes we have available is to ask you a few questions about yourself, a little bit about the organization, some of the goals that you've established in this area, and then maybe some of the barriers that keep you from reaching those goals. And as I say, that'll take about 30 minutes. Is that fair? And if she says yes, I also may want to say, now, what is your agenda? What would you like to add to this? Because I think it's important for the high competency person to have a track to run on. And therefore, that in the book, I call it framing the call. Any other questions or comments? Because folks, we're winding down here. Man, this is the fastest 3 hours I've spent in months. So what are your questions so far? On page 11, it gives you one additional page on selling style to style. In other words, that page is going to say, find your quadrant. For example, if you're the high C, it's going to tell you how do you sell or how do you communicate to the D, the I, the S, and yourself. So if you're the C and you're communicating to the dominant, you want to concentrate on what and when, not how, not the details. If you're a competency person calling on me, hit the high points, don't bog me down in detail. If you're a competency person calling on the S, give time to digest the information. Let the S understand it and feel comfortable with it. And if you're a competency person and your sales prospect is another competency person, remember to take action, not to study, study, study. All right, guys, hit me with some questions here. We've got a couple of minutes here to do that.
Hey, Brian, it's Roger. How you doing?
Roger, I'm good. Roger, you speak. I just thought you waved at us.
Had to catch those last few waves on the beach, obviously, right?
Like it. I like it.
Hey, this is all really great information. I was just curious if you had any insight. Obviously, one of the keys when you're in front of the person across the way from you is to decide what kind of personality they are as quickly as you can so you can make some adjustments. What insights can you give us on any clues or questions that you've come across in your experience to just kind of throw it out there and it kind of gives you that sense right away?
Roger, thank you for the question. Guys, gals, I don't want to overcoach you on this. Roger said something that kind of makes me perk up, and that's quickly. Sometimes it can't be done quickly. Sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 calls, interactions with somebody to determine their style. With that being said, file that away. As soon as you get a couple of clues, file that away and make sure you have something that would confirm it later. But Roger, here are 4 here's a magic bullet question that I've learned to ask that helps me determine their style. It's not a cure-all, but Roger, what style are you?
Kind of the influence dominant.
Okay, good. And that's so, that's good. So Roger, you like to get things done, then brag about yourself. Cool. Roger, I say that I'm the same style. I'm an influence and then a dominant. So here's the question I would ask.
Yep. By the way, don't
Roger,
ask Lori that question.
I'd ask the question to determine somebody's style. Roger, when you're making, you don't have to answer this, it's rhetorical. When you make decisions, what goes into your decision-making process? If he says, hey, if I want to do it, I pull the trigger, I get her done. Well, that's going to be more of a D answer. Well, I want to talk to people about it. Do you have a video? Can I see you? Can we go to lunch? Well, that's more of a high social, high influencing answer. And if you talk to the S and say, if we would install this, how would you make a decision on training? And they say, well, I'd bring in some people and get a consensus. I'd make sure I get other people involved. Well, that's going to be more of an S answer. And then if I ask the question, what goes into your decision making? Well, we study it. We want to make sure that you give us the proper amount of time to study it and give us references. Well, that's more detail. That's more slow down. That would probably be a competency person. But guys, I don't want to say that's the only magic bullet. It's not. But Roger, I think if you come up with a question or two in your industry, with what you do to support the small business community, you may be able to determine somebody's style quicker by that answer than other things. But you may have to come up with your own questions.
Thank you, Brian.
The other thing is, if you're face to face, be careful with this. This is what I was taught early in my career, and it didn't backfire necessarily, but I caution you on it. We were taught to go in somebody's office and look around and see if they have trophies and awards, and then you can play off of that. Well, that's good, and you can, but be cautious, because if you were to come in to sell me on how my office is decorated, you'd be selling to my wife, because Cindy decorated my office. However, if I have the opportunity to put a couple of pictures of me with famous people like Ralph Watts and Eddie, you don't know those people, but if I got pictures with presidents and football stars, well, that's more of an ego thing. That's probably a D or an I. Just there's a caution there. I just want to warn you, there's a caution. So, Roger, the best thing I think is how they respond to your questions, and whether there's a couple of pointed questions in your industry and your business and what you're selling that may give you their style quicker than other questions would.
That's great. Thank you.
Anything else? Bueller. Hello, McFly. Hello. Obscure movie references. I'm sorry. For you younger people, what is he talking about? Okay, guys, look, you've been great once again. I'm going to plug the resources. There's a little boy who wanted to play baseball with his dad, so they went out to the park, and there was a big rock, a boulder, if you will, and the little boy was kind of pushing, and the dad said, "Son, are you doing all you can to move that rock?" "Yeah, Dad, I'm doing all I can." And the dad says, "Well, until you ask me, you're really not doing all you can, but I want to help you." Well, the same thing is true with what the small business group is doing here, is that they're trying to help you move your rocks. They're trying to help you be successful. Experience is a great teacher, but man, it costs a lot. That tuition is very high. So if you look at the North Central Texas Center, what you've got here are people that have experiences that don't cost you anything. And I promise you, the times I've used SBA in the past, and this was back in, I think, 2005 out in Collin County. I forget where it was, I apologize. But the point is, they just gave me some insights that I said, okay, I'm going down the wrong path. And anything from writing a marketing plan to selling to connecting to put you in a position to have customers quickly, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. And I appreciate that you guys let me share with your most valuable resource, your people. So guys, here's a big, oh no, I went too fast. Here's a big finish right here. I want my children and my grandbaby to get up every day and look at that themselves, just like this guy's looking at himself. We need to do the same thing. We need to look at ourselves on what we're capable of, not where we've been, what we've done, but what we're capable of doing. One of my favorite poems is, God said, build a better world. And I said, but how? The world is so dark and complicated now. And I'm just one person. There's nothing I can do. And God, in all his wisdom, said, just build a better you. And folks, this guy's on his way. So see yourself of what you're capable of. See yourself at the abilities, the skills that you have, the passion that you have for what you're developing as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur. Get help doing that, but have people along the way that'll encourage you to take a look at the pure, the powerful, the clean, and the positive. Folks, once again, if I can help, this is my information. And I would be glad to answer emails, text. As a high I am very good. I can answer all my emails within 6 weeks. No, I'm teasing. I do better than that. But guys, let me know if I can help. Paula, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Oh, wow. Another good presentation. I think most everyone has been through some type of personality uh, uh, evaluation like the DISC, but to have it actually broken down on how do you approach people in a sales position, in a sales situation, that helps tremendously. Thank you so much. Well, we appreciate the plug for the SBDC. Yes, we are here to do whatever we can to help small businesses. And as Brian said, it is at no cost. I want to remind you that you're going to get an email with a survey on it. Please take a moment to complete that survey and tell us how we can better improve our program so that we are meeting your needs. We do have some upcoming webinars next week, and if we have Brian back with how to replace the competition, that's a good deal. And Ashley is the first part of our double header on Tuesday next week, how to connect with your target audience, part 2. Part 1 you can find on our YouTube channel. It is archived. So I really look forward to that. If you want to actually get in contact with us, use that QR code in the upper right-hand corner of that slide. It'll take you right to our website. On that website, you can register for these webinars. You can get contact information. You can go there to schedule an appointment with an advisor, and you can check out all of the resources we have already on our website for small business owners. I want to thank you all, but mainly I want to thank our benefactors. Without them, we would not be able to do what we do with you, for you, at no cost. The Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office in Dallas, and North Central Texas College, our host organization. Thank you all for joining us today, and we're looking forward to seeing you for our double header next week. You will be able to see some of our upcoming January webinars that we have coming up. We're rounding it out next week, but we'll show you some of the January events we have planned. Thanks so much, and we appreciate you attending our webinar.